This too?
You didn't know?
These Vital sachets that we all use to fry our meat and fishes, to prepare our favorite meals, and to refill our empty original Vital bottles. Hey! Are you sure you are a fellow Ghanaian?
Get your trusted Vital sachets today for affordability, convenience, and for the refilling of your original Vital bottle.
Vital, you deserve a life of goodness. This advert is
Ghana Mama Dadonio, may the dear Janava, Dado spices are running in every Jackson. And you never know yet.
If we come your trouble, we no use dead spices. We don't go if I don't feel
Fish there inside. Yeah, the natural spices, Papa Pana.
Noodles the way you go, dead spices.
Just the
one. No more dead spices.
The Lord tasting a chicken.
Kaji go. But dead spices here what Jenny say. Nanya good taste. If we say yeah the natural spices and yeah Ghana hey you want all purpose stew, noodles, curry and nutmeg and a jollof. Dead spices taste yummy, taste lemon. Dead spices taste gainza. FDIG a jedi kratoya too.
Yeah, then Jama was in part of Fufona. What in Rahua, a woman yinki kaya srono Eddie.
Eyesha. A mountain sound shisho. And a epu a run suye. A yink kayan kasa.
Oh, I should be.
The Jamal washing powder for furnace sachets I can see in Numaba. A yink kayan kasa.
Anima.
Jamal washing powder, bottle 30. Can you mount the Bejawari?
Hey,
New Jamal washing powder. A mania meniti. Nemusi sham. Wokafu a or ma wonta dieniti. FD aje a dreading crato yatum.
We are back bringing you the latest lineup from Betway. Betway starts strong with their front two with Free Play Friday and Swipe Bet. In the middle, you've got all the control with Cash Out and Build a Bet. Plus, with Win Boost, you can boost your sports bets. At the back, they have Smart Picks and the Partial Daily Jackpot. You always get way more with Betway.
This advert has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly. No under 18. Terms and conditions apply. Betway. Get way more.
Anti-cavity, gum protection, brighter teeth, and fresh breath.
I'm a fair missy way.
The patch of Bantama.
Machasi.
That's so cycle.
A smile, the fresh breath.
Me Gidi say we use Cal 360 toothpaste. Some Cal 360 toothpaste.
That's here. Cal 360 toothpaste. It's a gum protector.
Onim jom kasa. Ile crossing. Cal 360 did the way. Its cool mint gives me fresh breath and your confidence booster.
You will so feeling to when you know Cal 360 toothpaste.
Happy.
Cal 360 toothpaste, anti-cavity, gum protection, brighter teeth, and fresh breath. Kel, happy smile. This advert is FDA approved.
Our stories begin right here, and we never write them alone. There'll be pages we love to read again and again, and some we want to tear out. They are stories of dreamers, stories of creators, stories of strivers, stories of believers, and we're inspired by them all. We invite you to write your story with us. Your story matters, APSA.
alive so.
Just like how water refreshes you on a hot sunny day, it takes a refreshing bath with Alive soap to feel its pleasant fragrances.
The soap I want and need at the end of every day.
Leaving you with soft, smooth and fresh looking skin.
You make me feel alive, you really brighten my day, my day.
Available in lemon, coconut,
rose and aloe vera fragrance. Alive soap. Feel fresh, feel alive.
Welcome to our
Herbal Hospital. Specialists in every kind of bone disease.
Bar Herbal Hospital. Baby, a son of Wibia. Nanso, Yadi, in the Sapa,
spinal cord, swelling of the arms, arthritis, bone injury, swelling of the leg with reddish color around it, and so on. See, Bar Herbal Hospital has special ultra-modern machine for checking up the body. I have tried them and I got good result. Try Bar Herbal Hospital.
And then had to move in very quickly to put in relief measures to bring some temporary relief to the residents of Apieti. I think by and large, the first phase of it was contained, and then we then had to come in.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to this edition of the program. Thank you very much for your time. And it's always a pleasure. Sorry for my crooked voice tonight, but it will get better as we go on. It's always a pleasure to bring you the show. Well, it's 21 minutes past the top of the hour, 9 o'clock, or isn't it? Yeah, it is. 22 or 23, something like that. Past the top of the hour at 9 o'clock. Tonight, I have so much to say because I've been listening to radio this evening, isn't it? And I've been listening to the whole conversation about Yoko and the Office of the Special Prosecutor and the media angles and some of the interviews that were graciously granted the media, especially Joy FM's Evening News. I listened to it this evening. And I have so much to say, and I'm worried about many things, but I'm also excited about something. Tonight, we're going to get into a very simple matter. I was excited when I heard the theme of the radio station. They said that there's turf war among the institutions of state. I did not recognize any turf war at all. I only recognize dereliction of duty, but we'll get to that detail. Because we want to be as detailed, we have gone for all the documents, including the anti-money laundering law passed by Parliament, so that we'll look at it and understand what money laundering means, all of that. I'll tell you the full story, viewers, when we get there. Later on tonight, Alhassan Bello is going to explain to us what's happening in West Africa sub-region. What's the security situation? Is it true that Americans are negotiating with some people and the negotiations are broken down? Sorry, forgive me. I'm just a little bit of sneezing. Sorry about that, viewers. Really sorry. So Alhassan Bello will bring us that one in some detail, and we'll look at it. And then we have also been seeking to profile the NDC presidential running mate. It's a story we have postponed over time, but tonight we'll have the occasion to give a political profile of Professor Jenna Nopokwa-Agyemang, the running mate for the NDC. I'm sure that she was outdoored for that purpose so that media can interrogate her record, can interrogate her background, can interrogate her capacity, and then and help viewers to make a useful decision come December 2024, especially on the 7th day of December. We are keeping an eye on the conversation between the Electoral Commission and Imani Ghana. And about Imani, tonight we'll be showing you an Imani sort of conducted research poll on social media, looking at which candidate is leading on social media. Imani have been doing this periodically, and I think it's a very credible research, and we're going to be looking at it. But Imani have been at loggerheads with the Electoral Commission on allegations of corruption, allegations of procurement, exploitation, if you like. That's the allegation that Imani is making. The Electoral Commission says they are clean. There's no problem with it. We'll give you a full blow-by-blow account of how we have seen it, relying and looking at the documents. But because the first story about Yoko, and it's about Ghana, and it's about our governance, and it's about our laws, because that's our first story, and we need to prepare for it, we need just 5 minutes. In those 5 minutes, whilst we prepare for the Yoko and OSP story. I'll show you a documentary. Those of you who are very, very young, it will make you proud about historical Ghana. Those of you who are middle-aged, like me, you remember some of the names. Those of you who are older, it will bring you delight and smiles as you see some of the people that used to make the news in Ghana many, many years ago. Their names were reported on news almost every day. And for the last 40 years, maybe you haven't heard of them. This documentary will bring you back. So you're going to see names like Ayekumi. Do you know that name? You must be about maybe 65 years old to know Ayekumi's name. But if you are 25, look at how Ghana used to be back in the day. 5 minutes of a documentary that we obtained from the British Library, I believe, sometime back in 2016. And it is about Ghana Police Service as it then was. Have a look.
Yes, these are the men of our police, the representatives of a force nearly 8,000 strong, charged with the maintenance of law and order throughout the Republic of Ghana. They have a heavy responsibility to bear, yet they bear it happily and with goodwill towards their fellow men. They serve under the command of Commissioner E.R.T. Majite, and most of the officers and men have a long record of service stretching back to the days prior to independence. The modern policeman must know how to arrest a criminal who may have a gun. Perhaps he'll only have his own recourse and knowledge to help him, so unarmed combat is an important part of the training. Baton and shield drill for controlling mobs and breaking up riots is taught at Elmina. The part of the mob in this case is played by the police themselves with enormous enthusiasm, as you can see. Training of this sort is rarely, if ever, put into practice, but all the same, the policeman must know the right methods. First aid is also important. The policeman is often the first one on the scene after an accident, and he must know what to do until medical assistance can arrive. Everybody makes mistakes. The helping hand, the happy smile, and his air of authority are the Ghana policeman's stock in trade. The streets and patrol areas are all detailed on maps in the information room at Central Barracks, the nerve center of the city's police. All night and every night, while you and I are sleeping, they maintain constant vigilance, guarding person and property alike. They check the doors and locks of shops and houses. They make sure, too, that private watchmen are doing the work they are paid to do. In another part of the town, Edu, a good citizen, cannot sleep. The night is hot. A breath of air perhaps will help. He looks around. What goes on at this late hour? Yes, it is a thief. He knows the blue phone boxes are there for just such an occasion as this.
Is that the police? Man breaking into a shop into the road near the People's Bar.
Edu's prompt action brings the night duty men to immediate alertness. The call goes out to all cars in the area. The net is closing.
Control calling Evo 3, over.
Evo 3 answering control. Okay, over.
Proceed to Tudu Road near People's Bar. Attempted shop breaking reported, over.
Evo 3 control. One call out.
But will the police prevent the crime and make an arrest? On ceremonial occasions, it is the envied duty of the Mounted Police Squadron to provide an escort for the President of the Republic and for visiting dignitaries. The force, in all its branches, is a body of men and women dedicated to the service of our country. These men and women are keen and willing servants of the public. of yours and of mine, and they are all proud to be members of the Ghana Police.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You have just seen a film illustrating the various aspects of police work and the many difficulties that confront a police officer in the execution of his official duties. Most people, of course, think of the police service as an organization for dealing solely with crime. But you've just seen now that a police officer does far more than just this. The police service exists for the benefit of the public. It is your police service. But however scientifically developed the service may be, whatever advanced training we may give our men, and whatever modern equipment we may possess, we cannot function efficiently and effectively without your cooperation. We ask for it, and we very sincerely hope that you always give it, remembering that the lawbreaker is not only a menace to the victim of his crime, but also to the whole community. Our object is to ensure that all law-abiding citizens move about freely and set about their duties without let or hindrance. One thing I ask for, and that is your cooperation at all times. You will give it to us, won't you? I know the answer is yes. Thank you.
It led to a huge explosion which claimed 13 lives in southern Ghana.
Dozens of homes were destroyed in this village near the town of Bogoso.
This very tragic incident which happened in Apieti when there was an explosion in the community, which literally wiped the whole community out. The situation then called for immediate, swift action. The president at the time dispatched the vice president, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, to visit the site and the scene and to ascertain for himself what was the state of affairs at that place. The government then had to move in very quickly to put in relief measures to bring some temporary relief to the residents of Apieti. I think by and large, the first phase of it was contained, and then we then had to come in, as in the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, the permanent resettlement of the people of Apieti. And on this occasion, let me commend and applaud highly Dr. Joyce Ayi, a senior stateswoman, who dedicated so much time and effort in helping the ministry to raise the necessary funding to rebuild this community. And through Dr. Joyce Ayi, we were able to raise the needed funds to be able to rebuild the Apieti community.
We, the members of the committee, decided not to take any allowance at all, but rather we would also directly contribute to the fund. So far, so good. We are grateful for the privilege of being asked to raise the funds and to disburse the funds. There's still a lot of work to do. By the grace of God, so far we've been able to release funds as the need has arisen.
I then constituted a redevelopment committee chaired by Honorable Benito Usibio with very high-ranking professionals in our country as members, and they went to work.
We started by engaging the services of a consultant through procurement processes, and after which we also engaged services of construction companies. Bearing in mind the president's charge to us that it must be a model town and that it should conform to all the environmental and green concepts.
I served on the Apiasi Reconstruction Implementation Committee, to give architectural support. We were very interested in several things that would constitute part of the green technology. especially the microclimatic concerns. We were looking at the materials that would be used in.
Welcome back to the show, and now we're ready to fire. Good evening. Welcome again to the show. What's the time now? It's something like 9:35, isn't it? Okay. So it's 25 minutes to the top of the hour at 10 o'clock. All right. Viewers, forgive me, it's a bit of a boring topic, but we have to deal with this. The Office of Special Prosecutor, Cecilia Dapaa's issue, IOCO and all of that. So last week, Tuesday, we had occasion here to speak about the matter, and we have been apparently mentioned by somebody that there's an allegation that was made by the OSP official, Mr. Dako, that people in high office have been sponsoring attacks on them. And we don't know whether he's talking about that. What we do here is not attack. Okay, if you think it's an attack, we're about to do one just now. But let's explain this matter, viewers. We are all in Ghana, and news breaks from the Ghanaian Chronicle that a Minister of State, the person of Cecilia Dapaa, Minister for Sanitation, is in court. This is the story, that she's in court. You know, some people think that the story is that money was found in her house, people chanced upon the money, or that the police went to her house and found money. That's not really the story. She's in court as a complainant on a prosecution matter. She has complained to the police that people who live with her have stolen her money. Altogether, the sum something like $1 million. Immediately, the suggestion is that how does a minister of state have $1 million in her house? It means that she has stolen the money because she's a minister and she has access to money, so she has stolen it. Okay. A hula baloo is created, loud noises generated. President Akufo-Addo steps in and says that given all the circumstances, even though she can vouch for Cecilia Dapaa's innocence on this matter because he knows her, he thinks that it is time for Cecilia Dapaa to resign and allow investigations to occur unhindered by her position as Minister of State and a senior member of the government. So Cecilia Dapaa resigns. This is the trajectory of the story. Next, we see the very unwholesome attempt by the Office of the Special Prosecutor in the person of Kisia Jabin to now take cameras to Cecilia Dapaa's house, purportedly to search the house and to sort of take over the action. At this time, the matter is with the police CID, the Criminal Investigations Department. They are handling the matter, and the police prosecution wing is proceeding with the prosecution. The Office of the Special Prosecutor, mind you, is able to take up cases on his own without any reference to him if he finds that the case has suspicions of corruption and corruption-related offenses. So this was okay for the Office of the Special Prosecutor to look at it. It was okay. So he did. Now, we were very critical, and some important people too were, and well-meaning Ghanaians were, critical of Kisia Jabin's wanton acts of going to Cecilia Dapaa's house with video cameras and almost certainly pronouncing her guilty before she was tried. And we were worried that she has breached fundamental rules of law, that when people are being investigated, you don't create the scenario, especially these days with social media and cameras, to suggest that they're already guilty. Now, the Ghanaian public is very sensitive. We are all very sensitive to the money that belongs to the state. Every individual in the world is. So when these kind of things are created, this is a part of the video reminding you about how Kisia Jabin stormed Cecilia Dapaa's home with several 4x4 cars and several media. And we were particularly critical of this situation because it meant that the Office of the Special Prosecutor was giving away Cecilia Dapaa as guilty before proven innocent. Ghana operates a common law jurisdiction. We are not civil law. So here, one is innocent until a court of competent jurisdiction establishes the guilt of one in a prosecution. So when the person is not being prosecuted yet, or the person is not in court yet, and you are special prosecutor and you go to the house with such grand standing in all the pomp and circumstance, and you show it on television, and it's live on television, and people abroad are watching on television, and the impression is created that you have gone to Cecilia Dapaa's house to go and arrest her. We had problems with that. Martin Amido had problems with that. Any well-meaning Ghanaian had problems with that. All the senior lawyers had problems with that. Okay. Now, this led to several remedies, including the important people in the judiciary having a meeting with Kisia Jabin to tell him that you cannot do that. Well, he did. Then afterwards, he also gave information that he had been in Cecilia Dapaa's house and he has spent 5 hours to count money, which is totally false, completely untrue. Later on, he found ways to deny it, but the official information came from him that he said that he had been in Cecilia Dapaa's house for 5 hours, counting money, as it were. Or that when it was first attributed to him, he didn't issue a denial. And so the story got traction that Office of the Special Prosecutor, Mr. Kisia Jaben, had gone to Cecilia Dapaa's house, spent 5 hours counting money. I went to ask Cecilia Dapaa. She said it's not true. It's completely untrue. They didn't even spend an hour there. But anyway, so we were keeping an eye on the story. The Office of the Special Prosecutor began an investigative process. All right. Now, after the investigative process, a report was issued. So after my narration, I'll go to the touchscreen and show you everything, show you why we think that what is happening right now is dereliction of duty by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. It has nothing to do with theft war. Office of Special Prosecutor conducted, the whole matter led him to conduct a press conference, which you can see in the box near me on the TV. And he at the press conference, he lamented to the media that he being the sole savior of Ghana and savior of corruption and anti-corruption charges, and he gave account proverbs, all of that, which we don't want to go into. Those are not important for tonight. Tonight, we want to settle the matter because we are very concerned about the way in which the media is looking at it. So we have gone for the Anti-Money Laundering Act, and we will show you exactly why Yoko's letter is correct and why Kisia Jaben's refusal to send a report to Yoko is dereliction of duty. I have heard many accounts of the matter that Kisia Jaben is investigating something. He has finished the investigation. He has handed over to Yoko. Why does Yoko need him? That is a crass misunderstanding and a demonstration of clear ignorance of this Anti-Money Laundering Act. And it pains me when journalists demonstrate such crass ignorance of matters. It's worrying. It makes everybody disrespect journalists. Anybody who is anybody disrespect journalists because it shows that the journalists have not read anything. You see, the approach to governance is not always common sense. Some of it is technical, and we need to take our time as journalists and read the account. I don't know how many journalists who are working on this matter have gone to pull out the Anti-Money Laundering Act passed by Parliament to assess it and to make a determination for themselves whose role is where. We just read a letter from OSP says that I have asked Yoko, and then we just start talking about it. It creates disrespect for the profession and the career or the occupation, however you want to call it. And I'm hoping that after tonight, people will begin to see that there are other people who go to read the Anti-Money Laundering Act. It's an act passed by Parliament. It belongs to us. If you are a journalist and you are synthesizing and analyzing, you ought to have read it in the name of God. Please read it. Read the Anti-Money Laundering Act in the name of God. Journalists, read it before you come and sit on radio or TV and be talking that Yoko has not investigated, this one has not investigated. That is very irksome. IRKSOME. It's annoying. But why do journalists do that? You see, when you belong to a certain profession and you know that it's a noble profession and you see other people do it in a certain way, that is why at the bar, there's a general legal counsel. They can call a lawyer and say that we have asked you to stop practicing because what you are doing is embarrassing all lawyers. So they call you and say that because of this act, we have asked you to stop practicing. You cannot do that in journalism because everybody is a journalist. Why is everybody a journalist? Yes, it's true. Everybody is a journalist. You know why? Because whereas the Ghana Bar Association can have standards for lawyers and decide that you are no longer a lawyer, Ghana Medical Association can have standards for doctors and decide that because of what you've done, you are no longer a doctor. The Institution of Engineers can have standards for engineers and decide that because of what you have done, you're no longer an engineer. You cannot do that for journalism. You know why, viewers? Because journalism is tied to a fundamental human right in the Constitution guaranteed under Chapter 5, the freedom of expression. So you cannot ask me to stop expressing myself. So however people express themselves, whether they are journalists, mainstream, they are new journalists, new media, social media, Snapchat, whatever, all the professions I've mentioned, lawyers, engineers, doctors, architects, quantity surveyors, carpenters, masons, all of them can act as journalists. Everybody can act as a journalist. So that is why elsewhere in America, they streamline who and whom can do it. Even that, they've lost some of it because of social media. Because I can just put a podcast in my room and I start talking, I'm broadcasting, I'm a journalist. So you cannot ask journalists to stop. So what happens is that it is the practice of the mainstream journalist that decides whether people respect this profession or they don't respect this profession. That's what is happening. You cannot stop anybody from being a journalist. The Ghana Journalists Association cannot put anything together and say, we have stopped you from being a journalist. journalist, because if you do that, he will sue you. You cannot stop anyone in Ghana from expressing themselves. It's a fundamental human right. It is in the 1992 Constitution. The practice of journalism is a fundamental human right. The practice of law is not a fundamental human right. It's a privilege. You have to be called to the bar. The practice of medicine is not a fundamental human right. It's a privilege. You have to go to school and be called. The practice of journalism is a fundamental human right. That doesn't mean that we take advantage of that and then do anything at all to derange the name of journalism. Let's go to the touch screen and let's see what we got. Now, here's Kisia Jabin, who has variously committed dereliction of duty, crass behavior, total irresponsibility in most of the things he's done as special prosecutor. I understand that the court case is being prepared against him by somebody. I didn't get the name of the person, but that's what I understand. Anyway, so let's get to the details. So Kisia Jabin then begins to investigate Cecilia Dapaa for what is called corruption and corruption-related offenses. Corruption and corruption-related offenses. He conducts an investigation. We all keep quiet. Everybody keeps quiet. We're watching him. We're waiting for his report. He conducts an investigation for 7 months. After 7 months of investigation, investigating Cecilia Dapaa for corruption and corruption-related offenses, after 7 months, Kisia Jabin produces this report. Let's get to it. What does it say? Can you give me the report? Yes. So it's entitled Office of the Special Prosecutor discontinues court case involving Cecilia Dapaa and transfers investigations to Yoko. All right. Now, he was in court in pursuit of the investigations of corruption and anti-corruption, corruption and corruption-related offenses. He was in court for that. During the court process, he did something funny. He seized Cecilia Dapaa's money, which is entitled to do. And then Cecilia Dapaa's lawyers told him that whilst you're entitled to seize, you have to go to court to find an application to do so. He doesn't go to court. The judge says that, why don't you come to court to seize the money? You cannot seize the money. He agrees with the judge, I cannot seize the money. Calls Cecilia Dapaa to his office, come back for the documents that support your money, etc., etc. And then he seized the money 5 minutes later. Very childish, very sheepish, and really untoward. But he did it. Very like a 17-year-old boy. He says, take your car, this car. Okay, give your car back. Then you take it, I seize it from you again. Well, we talked about it. We won't talk about that tonight. That's not important. Let's get to the meat of the matter so people can get the gravamen of the issue. So, this is the release of 23 January. Office of Special Prosecutor discontinues court case involving Cecilia Dapaa. It says, the Office of the Special Prosecutor has officially transferred investigations into financial affairs and assets of former Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources, Cecilia Dapaa, along with her associate, to the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO. After nearly 7 months, viewers hear this, after nearly 7 months of extensive investigation by the OSP and a parallel inquiry by the Federal Bureau of Investigations of the United States, no direct and immediate evidence of corruption has been found in the seized funds and the frozen bank accounts linked to Mrs. Dapaa and her associates. Viewers, right there in the last paragraph, Kisia Jabin is the one who clears Cecilia Dapaa. And I'm not sure whether civil society have not noticed that. I don't understand why they don't talk about that. But the person who clears Cecilia Dapaa is Kisia Jabin. The person who investigated Cecilia Dapaa for corruption and corruption-related offenses is Kisia Jabin. The person who finished the investigation after 7 months, including external investigations, is Kisia Jabin. It is him who finished his investigations and came to make such a bold pronouncement that, where is it? After Federal Investigation Bureau of the United States, after 7 months, no direct and immediate evidence of corruption has been found in the seized funds and the frozen bank accounts. So what did Kisia Jabin do? He seized Cecilia Dapaa's funds and investigated the source of funding. Because really, that's how you find corruption and anti-corruption. What's the source of funding? Where are you getting the money from? He investigated all that. He didn't just investigate the money that we know about, the one that was found in her house or the one that was stolen in her house. He investigated transfers that had come to Cecilia Dapaa's bank accounts together with her husband from America, from England, from wherever. He even went ahead to investigate contracts that had been awarded by Cecilia Dapaa in a capacity as Minister for Sanitation to companies, and went to check whether those companies may have given her a kickback, whatever, whether the processes of awarding the contracts fit the law, public procurement, and etc. The kinds of laws that he is not able to obey, the PPA laws to buy cars, he is not able to obey it. He was investigating Cecilia Dapaa, whether Cecilia Dapaa has obeyed it or not. Thankfully, at the end of the conclusion, he says There's no direct and immediate evidence of corruption that has been found to Cecilia Dapaa and her associates. The story goes on. The investigation has identified strong indications of suspected money laundering, and this is the gravamen of the matter. He said, the investigations has identified strong indications of suspected money laundering and structuring. While the OSP acknowledges these suspected offenses do not fall directly within the mandate of the office by law, the office cannot investigate, prosecute, nor recover process of crime except those that fall within corruption and anti-corruption related offenses as identified under their act. In compliance, is the last paragraph, in compliance with Section 3 of Act 959, which mandates the OSP to cooperate and coordinate with other law enforcement agencies, the case has been transferred to Yoko for further investigation. In August 2023, OSP acted by freezing Cecilia Dapaa's bank accounts, and they confiscated $590,000, 2.37 million cedis from her residence, etc., frozen accounts. So, the story here at this stage, and we must all understand it, I'm not so sure why people have not done the work like that. The story as at this stage is that after 7 months of investigation, OSP clears Cecilia Dapaa, clears her. It is the OSP, it is him who has cleared it. Let that go on record for every media house to hear. It is Kisia Jabin who has cleared Cecilia Dapaa. That's the story. So tell Martin Pegu, and I'm going to come back to Martin Pegu. I'm going to descend on him heavily because the High Court has something to say about him. Then he sits on radio and he's postulating virtue. Martin Pegu is able to sit on Joy FM and postulate virtue when the High Court has something to say about him. I'm going to show you what the High Court said. I'm not going to joke tonight. It is Kisia Jabin who has cleared Cecilia Dapaa. Let the record show. That is the fact of the matter. And we shouldn't pussyfoot about this. And it hurts me when established media houses are doing the work as if they don't want to do the work. This is the fact of the matter. If you're going to do a chronology of events and you're going to track everything that has happened, you will be able to observe without hesitation that clearing Cecilia Dapaa of corruption and corruption-related offenses came from Kisia Jabin. It is him. He together with Sami Dako. They cleared Cecilia Dapaa after 7 months of investigation. Okay, fair enough. Let's move to the next stage. After that, they now hand over the documents to Madam Mami Tiwa of Yoko. This evening, I was listening to Joy FM. I heard Martin Pegu talk about Mami Tiwa, that you can't trust her something. You, Martin Pegu, the High Court has said things about you, which I'll be telling viewers again. I'll say it again today. You, High Court has said things about you. High Court hasn't said those things about Mami Tiwa. And then you sit on radio and postulate about her that somehow or other she is not fit for her job. When you Martin Pegu, in fact, media should not be even calling, if this is London or America, no media house will interview Martin Pegu about law, because the High Court has pronounced something against him. In a matter of stealing, the High Court pronounced against him. And then they still call him, and they pretend that the High Court hasn't said anything about him. Okay, let's get on with our story. So, Kisia Jabin here hands over the documents to Mami Tiwa, because Kisi says that at this rate, we have cleared her of corruption and corruption-related offenses. However, there could be money laundering. We can even suspect it. So, if it's money laundering, it is Yoko that does it. That's not bad. That's fair. What we need to put on record, though, it is Kisia Jabin who cleared Cecilia Dapaa. No one else. Kisia Jabin is the one who cleared Cecilia Dapaa. It was him. It's firmly in his documents. And anybody who takes a cursory appreciation of that document will see that Kisia Jabin said that after 7 months of investigation with him and the American FBI, Madame Cecilia Dapaa shows that there's no immediate evidence of corruption and corruption-related offenses. All right, let's move on to the next level. So, then comes Iyoko. Iyoko then gets a letter. Okay. And then they get the letter making the case of the reference to them. So they write back to OSP. Office of Special Prosecutor, attention Kisia Jabin. Referral of investigation, Cecilia Dapaa and Daniel Osei-Kufuor. Okay, it goes on. The Economic and Organized Crimes Office, Iyoko, presents its compliments to the Special Prosecutor and respectfully requests for further information on the above reference subject. We acknowledge receipt of the docket and documents on the above subjects and have commenced investigations accordingly. We would appreciate it if you could furnish us with a copy of your findings on the case to facilitate our investigations. In furtherance of the investigations, kindly provide us with the name and contact details of focal persons at the OSP to enable our investigators contact them on matters relating to the referred case. Okay, that's the end of the story. So we are progressing. So now he's written to Kisia Jabin here, This is Sami Darko. Well, this is a better photograph. Kisi Adaben and Mami Tiwa. Kisi Adaben has written to Mami Tiwa that I'm done with Cecilia Dapaa. I do not find anything against her as far as corruption and corruption-related offenses are concerned. I've cleared her. However, I do not have capacity to investigate money laundering. Neither do I have power to clear her on money laundering. So please take over. Mami Tiwa receives it and says that, okay, whilst you do not have the power, furnish us with the report that you generated. That report that you used to come to the conclusion that there's no corruption and corruption-related offense against her. Bring that report so that we will use it to see if we can find money laundering. There's a reason why she said that. And we're going to show it to you in the Money Laundering Act. Because you cannot be looking for money laundering without an offense. And I'll come and explain that. Money laundering is predicated on another offense. So like this one, this is standing on this. This one stands on this one. Money laundering is the black one. There's an offense that must come. I'll show you. My producer has done a beautiful diagram for you to understand it perfectly. So she writes to her and says that, please, furnish me with a report. And then all hell break loose. Sami Darko, now you can bring Sami Darko's photograph. Sami Darko, who is the media head of OSP and also a lawyer, goes on radio and raises questions about why the Iyoko is asking them for a report. In fact, he says, Iyoko have not asked for any report. And then he says that there is an FBI report, but they are the OSP officer are unable to give the FBI report out because it is confidential. FBI report on whether Cecilia Dapaa has money laundering from America or not, and that should go to Iyoko, is confidential. Both Iyoko and the OSP can share confidential documents every day. They are important institutions of state. So what's the point about something is confidential and something is not confidential? But anyway, he says that they are not able to release the report. And then he also says that Iyoko have not even asked for the report. He says Iyoko have not asked for the report. So then we all get confused. Which video is that? Yes, okay, we'll come to that. He says that Iyoko have not asked for the reports. That's what Sami Darko said. That if Iyoko says they've asked for the report, it's not true. Now, before he said that, last week we have showed this Iyoko letter here. A letter written to the OSP. We have showed it. And Sami Darko says it's not true that Iyoko have asked for a report. Today, Iyoko have brought a release indicating when they asked for the report, meetings they've conducted, and you will listen to the radio programs, and the media are not asking Sami Darko that, Chief, last Saturday on Newsfile, you said that Iyoko have not asked for any report. Today, Mami Tiwa has issued a report saying that she did ask for the report. She's giving dates. She's giving times when meetings occurred. She's giving the person who received the report. She's giving the details of meetings that were held towards Iyoko securing the report from OSP. Media are not asking him that. And asking him that, do you still stand by the fact that Iyoko didn't ask for a report, or you want to withdraw your words? This is what the honesty of journalism is about. This is what keeping the politicians and the public officers on their toes is about. They still engage Sami Darko in interviews today without pointing out to him that, did you lie to us, sir? Or were you economical with the truth? Or were you just unaware that Iyoko had actually asked for the report and that meetings had been held in your own office about this report with names of people participating in the meeting, all in the Iyoko letter? Nobody asked him that. Civil society jump on the bandwagon. Some civil society jump on the bandwagon that Cecilia Dapaa is a thief. She has stolen money. So we don't want to analyze anything. Is that how we want to build the country? That you don't like Akufo-Addo and that he's been president for 2 terms. It won't change. Your dislike for Akufo-Addo won't change. And his presidency of 2 terms will not change. That he won a significant election in 2016 without you, it will not change. So stop that and let's think and build a country. This hatred for Akufo-Addo that some people bandy it together, and because of that, they are not even able to wear proper lenses to look at things. This man has lied on radio, clearly, completely misled the whole world on radio, that Iyoko have not asked for anything. And then Iyoko comes and says, what's he talking about? In fact, they make reference to his radio conversation that we have seen on social media. He's lying. This happened on this date. This happened on that. And then today, Tuesday, he shows up on radio again. Nobody is able to ask him because they are friends. Is that how we build? That's why they don't respect the journalist. That is why they don't respect the journalist. Because you're a journalist. Somebody has said something. Yes, this is the Iyoko letter. Okay, there's a video. They want me to show a video of Sami Darko talking on radio, saying that he has not received any letter from Iyoko. Here is the video. Sound.
The Iyoko that you simply gave your docket to said they wrote to you asking for to know about what the FBI you spoke about was doing. You didn't give them anything. They needed further information. You didn't help them. And this is where we are. So you didn't do your job well.
Thank you very much, Samson. First of all, let me state on record that when the OSP made a referral to IOCO, there were standing committees that were supposed to collaborate because we had not entirely washed our hands of the case. So there were two representatives, one from IOCO and one from us. But I also like to put on record that at no point in time has IOCO requested for a copy of the FBI report.
Really?
We need to be very accurate. At no point in time did IOCO request for a copy of the FBI report. But Samson, let me also go ahead to say that even if IOCO had requested for a copy of the FBI report, it was not just going to be that simple that FBI report would have just been given to IOCO. Remember, there are MOUs between OSP and the FBI. And they are also, I'm aware that there are also MOUs between IOCO and FBI. And this particular investigation was in respect of OSP, in respect of corruption.
But you are making a serious claim.
Oh, I wish they had let something finish. So you are making a serious claim that they didn't ask. Okay, so this was on News File on Saturday morning. Prior to that, on Thursday evening, we had showed IOCO's letter to OSP asking for the report. So I was walking by, people were texting me, "Are you watching News File? Where did you get the letter from?" I said, "Which letter?" He said, "The letter you showed on TV." The guy said, "There's no letter." I said, "Which guy?" They said, "Samuel Dako." I said, which he said that. So I woke up and I put the News File on. I'm watching Samson nicely with his red background, which I like. And then the guy is talking. So I call my people that, get me the letter again. Get a date. Is it there? They said, "Yeah, it's there. It's there. It's correct. They sent it." It's okay. What we need to do now is to see whether the letter was received by OSP. So this is Sunday evening conversation we are having about this matter. And then, bang, by the grace of God, IOCO published today. This is the guy speaking on Saturday. Today, IOCO published this letter, which I'm going to take you through. Okay. The letter is entitled, "Referral by the Special Prosecutor to the Economic and Organized Crime for Investigations into Money Laundering against Cecilia Dapaa." And it's as follows. The attention of the Economic and Organized Crime Office, IOCO, has been drawn to a statement by one Samuel Appiah Darko, described as the Director of Strategy, Research and Communications at the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Is that his title? Director of Strategy. What has Ghana done wrong? The Director, Office of Special Prosecutor, Director of Strategy. Are they selling something at Unilever? The attention of the organized IOCO has been drawn to a statement by one Samuel Appiah Darko, described as Director of Strategy. Strategy indeed. Research and Communication at the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Widely published in mass media to the effect that IOCO did not request the findings of the transboundary investigations conducted by the OSP and the Federal Bureau of Investigations, and which formed the basis for the suspicion of the offense of money laundering allegedly committed by Cecilia Dapaa. Number 2, paragraph 2, I should say. In view of the intense public interest generated by the instant matter, and to correct the undue misrepresentation of facts, IOCO would like to set the record straight. Full stop. 1. Following receipt of the referral by the OSP on the 25th of January 2024, IOCO, by a letter dated 1st February 2024, signed by Deputy Executive Director Operations Abdullahi Bashiru Dapila, requested the Special Prosecutor for a copy of the findings on the case to facilitate IOCO's investigation. 2. IOCO's letter of 1st February 2024 was received at the front desk of the Office of the Special Prosecutor by a field desk officer named Solomon Tete, who duly signed for the letter at 9:52 a.m. and on 2nd February 2024. This is the details IOCO is bringing out. And I do not understand how journalists will see this IOCO letter and let Samuel Darko go off scot-free without pointing out to him that he has either lied to the public on Saturday on Newsfile, or that he had been unaware for him to admit and actually confirm whether in fact Iyoko wrote to the office of the OSP. He sat on Newsfile knowing that a letter has come to his office, knowing that the letter was received by Solomon Tete. He was aware. This is what they do. They think that the state work they are doing is some film, child's play, as like what we used to do in Engman House in Presec, playing. They think that they are 16-year-olds and they are playing with the authority of the state. What has Ghana done wrong to have Ekisi Ajabe in such an important office and behaving like this? A letter has come from another state institution. You know a letter has come. They think it's some joke. So they come on radio and say, oh, we haven't received any letter. They think we are doing pilolo. They are doing pilolo with Office of Special Prosecutor. Don't they see the logo? The logos that they carry, do they know what it means? Where did Ghana go wrong that we now have to place people in authority who not even understand why they are there? Because they may be 60 years old, but their brain is like 14. Why? What is this? You receive a letter, you come on radio and say, I've not received any letter. And then Iyoko now give us the time. 9:52 a.m. on 2nd February, the letter was received by Solomon Tete. The letter requesting for the report, it was received. Not just that, hear it. The Deputy Executive Secretary of Iyoko, Bashir Dapila, followed up to the OSP and discussed with Mr. Emmanuel Basintale, the Director of Investigations at the OSP, the possibility of expediting the release of the report. This discussion was done in the presence of the Deputy Special Prosecutor, Ms. Cynthia Lamte. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? The Deputy Special Prosecutor was in a meeting where the Iyoko sent somebody to OSP's office to demand the expedite the release of the report. Iyoko is saying that we need the report so that we can proceed. Now, some journalists think Iyoko doesn't need any report. You've been told to investigate money laundering. Go ahead. We will show you in the act that Iyoko cannot go ahead unless they have received something, because the offenses are categorized. There's a base offense and there's a secondary offense. We'll show you that in a minute. If anyone read the Anti-Money Laundering Act, they will see it. But somehow, people don't want to read it. Anyway, and then they come on radio and postulate. If you don't want to read it, no problem. Nobody's asking you to read it. But if you haven't read it, don't come on radio and postulate and call Martin Pebu. No, please, let's deal with it. All right. So this was done. Madam Cynthia Lamte was there. Okay. Now, it says Mr. Basintale assured that as soon as he received clearance from the special prosecutor, the report will be released to Iyoko to assist in investigation. To date, Iyoko has not received any information from the OSP. Iyoko deems it pertinent to indicate that it is aware of a press release issued by the OSP dated same day that the OSP referred the investigations to Iyoko 25th January 2024, in which the OSP stated that after nearly 7 months of extensive investigation by the OSP and parallel inquiry by the FBI of the United States, no direct and immediate evidence of corruption has been found in the seized funds and frozen bank accounts linked to Madam Cecilia Dapaa. Iyoko is repeating the fact that OSP has cleared Cecilia Dapaa. Paragraph 5. Iyoko further noted that the OSP has, in its letter referring the docket to Iyoko, stated that in October 2023, the investigations became transboundary with the involvement of the Federal Bureau of Investigations of the United States in respect of parts of the cash sums that were alleged to have been transported into the jurisdiction from the United States. After 7 months of extensive investigation and 4 months of collaborative investigation, it seems to the OSP that the case is largely in the province of suspected money laundering. This is quoting from the OSP's report. Paragraph 6. The facts stated above made it necessary for Iyoko to seek the advice of the Attorney General on the matter, as in the view of the clear indication by the OSP that the office had found no direct and immediate evidence of corruption in the seized funds and frozen bank accounts linked to the former minister. Paragraph 7. Following the review of the docket presented by the OSP and the advice of the Attorney General, Iyoko returned the original docket received from the OSP back to the OSP on 3rd May. Iyoko hereby assures the general public of his preparedness to uphold the highest investigative standards and to do right to all manner of persons irrespective of political, gender, race, ethnic, social, and economic status. So, the question, who has cleared Cecilia Dapaa? Is not the Attorney General. It's not the police CID. It's not the IGP. It's not Iyoko. It is Kisi Ajabe. So all those who are upset and angry that somebody has stolen Ghana's $1 million, kept it in her house, and that when we are looking for the money, they say she hasn't done anything wrong. If you are upset about that, the person to be upset about is Kisi Ajabe. I'm not upset about that because I think he did a job. He came to the conclusion that there was nothing. Now, having come to the conclusion that there was nothing, I believe Cecilia Dapaa should have rendered an apology to Cecilia Dapaa for going to her house in the manner in which he did and telling all Ghanaians that she has stolen 1 million. And after 7 months of investigation between himself and FBI, they all come to the conclusion that Cecilia Dapaa has done nothing wrong. And you don't render an apology. I think that is disrespectful, and we are not raised to be disrespectful. That is he's a Kwewu man. I don't think Kwewus are raised to be disrespectful. They are very respectful people. Cecilia Dapaa owes Cecilia Dapaa and the Ghanaian public an unqualified apology, because what you did, and then 7 months later come and tell us that she's done nothing wrong, is incongruous. It doesn't add up. It shows that the manner in which you conducted the investigation was wrong, it was below par, it was immoral. Particularly immoral. That's what it shows. You went to a house with cameras and everything. You said you counted money for 5 hours. After 7 months, you come and issue a report and says, she's done nothing wrong. I've checked the money. I've looked at everything. She's done nothing wrong. Can Cecilia Dapaa be suing him right now? Maybe not, because he was doing his official duty. Kisi was doing his official duty, so you can't sue him. But otherwise, Cecilia Dapaa should have a case against him. You come to her house. She's an older woman. She has children, nieces, nephews, everything. And then you let the whole world know that Cecilia Dapaa is a thief. We come here and criticize you that you are not yet there to be able to make a conclusion that she's a chief. You are not yet there. And every Ghanaian is entitled to that. Today you might laugh at Cecilia Dapaa, tomorrow it will be your uncle, tomorrow it will be your auntie. If we don't build a society that can stand the test of time, it will touch everybody. And we don't want it like that. We have to build a society that will stand the test of time. And to do that, we have to eschew characteristics that Cecilia Dapaa showed in the way in which he investigated the Cecilia Dapaa matter. He can't do that. He's not allowed to do that. Okay. Now, let's come to the details. What then is money laundering? Because Cecilia Dapaa says that he shifted the thing to Cecilia Dapaa, to Iyoko, for them to look at. What then is money laundering? Okay, let's look at it. Now, this is the Anti-Money Laundering Act passed by Parliament, the one that I'm urging all journalists to read. It is the Act 1044, and the date of accent is 29 December 2020, passed by Parliament and assented by the President. Money laundering. Okay, let's move on. Money laundering section 1. A person shall not engage in money laundering. 2. A person commits an offense of money laundering if the person knows or ought to have known that a property, very, very important, viewers, let's take it slowly. A person commits money laundering if he knows that a property is or forms part of the proceeds of unlawful activity. And the person, A, converts, conceals, disguises, or transfers the property for the purpose of concealing or disguising the illicit origin of the property. Forget about all the legal English words. I'm going to explain in some better detail. All right, let's get here. Okay, it's about the same. It's just the law. Great. I like this one. So, crimes are all proscribed in the Criminal Offences Act. The Criminal Offences Act proscribes crimes. Offenses, that things that you shouldn't do, we call them offenses. And it is proscribed in the document. So when you do something that is proscribed in a document, you've committed a crime. Now, base crime is equal to final crime. If the crime that you have committed is murder, murder is murder. You kill somebody, murder. That's base crime. Murder is not something that is predicated on something. I'll explain that in a minute. Okay. So this is base crime. Most of the crimes we know are base crime, and it's equal, therefore, to final crime. All right. Let's move on. Money laundering is required as follows. You need a base crime plus a predicate crime. That's how you can get money laundering. So you cannot catch somebody on the streets and investigate them for money laundering. No. Money laundering is predicated on an offense. So you are found for trafficking marijuana, for instance. That's the crime. When you are found guilty of trafficking marijuana, they now come and look at your lifestyle, your income, your sources, and come and question you, where did you get the money from? Or were you laundering the money you were... So, for instance, you can commit the offense of trafficking and even build a hospital that is saving the lives of children with the money from the trafficking. That hospital is a proceed of a crime, and the hospital is the offense of money laundering. The hospital that you have built, that is the offense of money laundering. Money laundering is a secondary offense. It's not a primary one. So you can't say that OSP has sent the thing to Cecilia Dapaa, to Iyoko. Iyoko, go and investigate for money laundering. They cannot investigate for money laundering empty-handed. It must be predicated on an offense. So what has she done? Is it stealing? Is it bank fraud? Is it trafficking? What is it that then moves us to money laundering? You cannot just take the person and say that I'm investigating for money laundering. This is what money laundering is. And that is why it is impossible for Iyoko to proceed with an investigation of money laundering except they go back to the OSP and say, give us the report, the thing you did, the conduct, and then let us find it. Because to find money laundering, you have to find a base crime and you have to find a predicate crime. This is why this is what people didn't know, and that's what hurts me. Now let's look at this diagram. So you must have committed some of these offenses to earn the money. So this is marijuana. So you do marijuana, and then you get money, and then the money is here, and then use the money for something else. Then Iyoko will investigate that something else and come to the conclusion that the something else was done as a result of money laundering. So here, the guy is shooting, is killing somebody. You go and murder somebody, take his money, use the money to build a school. The school is the offense of money laundering. The school that you have built, that is the offense. It will be taken by the government, it will be closed down. So you set up a car manufacturing plant with drug money. So you are prosecuted for drug trafficking in the court. Then they say, Osimesi has been pronounced guilty of drug trafficking. As soon as you are pronounced guilty of drug trafficking, whilst you may be serving a jail term, they begin to investigate you for money laundering. That's what money laundering is about. And it's in the act. A property. So you see, when they were outlining the money laundering offense in the act, they first started by a property. That property must arrive. Where is it? A person commits an offense of money laundering if the person knows or ought to have known that a property, first thing they mention is a property. Is a property can be a house, it can be money, it can be car, it can be hospital, it can be a school, it can be a media house, it can be anything. A property is or forms part of the proceeds of unlawful activity, and the person converts, conceals, disguises, or transfers the property for the purpose of concealing or disguising the illicit origin of the property. That's money laundering. It's not a basic offense. It's a secondary offense. That's what the law says at 1044. So if we had read the law this evening before Top Story, we all would have known the questions to ask Martin Pebu, the questions to ask civil society, the questions to ask the OSP. That's what we would have known. And Martin Pebu knows that the law of money laundering is a secondary offense, but he's enjoying the fact that the person interviewing him is unaware. That's a dishonesty. Instead of him pointing out to the person that, hold on a minute, maybe what the Iyoko is saying, you can add, I don't like Mami Tiwa, you can add all that. But maybe what Iyoko is saying is that because it's a secondary offense, they needed the report of the OSP. We know that the OSP did not generate any report on Cecilia Dapaa. We know that the OSP doesn't generate any reports. He just conducts a charade of movie activity. It's a charade of movie activity. He doesn't generate any reports. And I will challenge them on Tuesday. No media house has challenged him yet. Nobody has asked him that. But OSP, do you actually have a report after the 7 months of the Cecilia Dapaa investigation? They do not have a report. They don't. They probably were hoping that something will happen and then some pecuniary advantages will occasion to them. And it didn't happen. So they just write a report and say, after 7 months of investigation, you have conducted an investigation for 7 months. You have been partnered in that investigation by the FBI. Are you suggesting that for your 7 months of investigation, there's not even a one-pager of a report that Iyoko can take off from? They have to first locate the property and see that this property could have come as a result of illicit transfer of resources. They didn't do that. So this is the story. The story is that there is no turf war between Mami Tiwa and, can you bring me Tiwa and Cecilia Dapaa again? The thing that disappointed me the most was that at the end of the story this evening, the Joy FM people concluded that there's turf war. And based upon that, they were asking people, turf war, what is turf war? This guy has been derelict in his duty. And then you say turf war. I don't even understand it. I don't know whether it's World Bank language or it's IMF language. What is turf war? A state institution has to act in a certain way. A report is, you have issued something. Somebody demands a report. Your officer says that I'm waiting for clearance to give you the report. Clearance never comes from Cecilia Dapaa. And then the matter blows up. Then the media house says, we have turf war. It is dereliction of duty on the part of Ajabin. That's what it is. Total dereliction of duty. That's what it is. The other day we said few things about him that people say we shouldn't repeat, so we'll repeat it tonight. But this is dereliction of duty on the part of Ajabin. Nothing to do with turf war. And then they are creating a new narrative. Lying by Sami Darko. Falsehood. Perpetration of falsehood on behalf of a state agency is a crime. Sami Darko perpetrates falsehood on behalf of the state agency, the OSP. And the media are not worried about it. They don't ask him that question. That last Saturday you said this and this is what has happened. Nobody's asking him. And he's walking away with falsehood. Telling lies upon lies upon lies upon lies. Just so that their charade will look okay. It cannot look okay to anybody, to everybody. It may look okay to some, but that charade will be found out by people who take the least time to just read through the Anti-Money Laundering Act 1044. So this is a clear case of dereliction of duty on the part of Ajabin. Why is Joy FM calling it turf war? What does that mean? That can be very painful and annoying if you are in the media. And for the rest who are not in the media, they will just walk away and disrespect the journalists. You say that, hey, as for you journalists, dear, yeah, what is this? Because people can read through the lines. Ghanaians are intelligent people. The people that we are broadcasting to, they are intelligent people. They are not journalists because they are doing something else. It's not that we are journalists and we are better than them or we are more. I've told people all the time. The people I sat in classroom with, if they all decided to be journalists, some of us will not have a job. The people I sat in classroom with from Prusek to Legon, if all of them decided to be journalists, some of us we won't have a job. But they are doing other things. So when we are broadcasting to them, we have to understand that they know what we are about. And that's why the disrespect always comes to journalists. And I'm talking for the young journalists who are going to inherit disrespect. Because journalists are not doing their work. This man here has conducted dereliction of duty. Then they come with a narrative that is turf war. Turf war between Yoko and... What is turf war? You write a report. They say, give us a report. You don't give the report. They write to you that, no, you came to lie that we didn't ask for the report. We asked for the report and we came to your office for a meeting. You say, turf war. What is turf war about this? What is turf war about this? Point out where it lies. This is dereliction of duty. No matter whose axe is God, let us deal with it. Let us deal with it. What is this? This is dereliction of duty on the part of a young man who has an important job, who should shine so that young men are not disrespected when they are about to get an important job in government. And they say small boys. That's what happened. Because they say, but you go and give the job to small boys. This is what you see. Small boys always doing video charade, carrying camera all over the place and filming this and filming that and putting themselves out on social media as if they are Satawale, as if they are medical. What's the point? You are an important factor of the governance system. You are an important factor of the good governance that we are trying to build. How then do you behave like you're a movie star or you're a football star? Why do you do that? And then when he has committed dereliction of duty, he has the media who, through no fault of theirs, who have been trapped. Our media, some of us, have been trapped. And then they are not even able to point out dereliction of duty. The guy refuses to send a document and they say there's turf war. What is turf war? What is turf war about this? It is dereliction of duty on the part of Ajabin. I don't even know whether I should talk about Martin Pegu. Let me see what viewers are thinking. Let me see what viewers are thinking. But put Martin Pegu there. Martin Pegu, I have a message for you. He's a good lawyer that I like. But I have a message for him. Now, the only thing Martin Pegu has done that I have praised was to go to court, Supreme Court, and try and change the weekend calendar. You know, those days when they catch you, then they say 48 hours, then blah, blah, blah. Martin Pegu did a good job of that. But what I don't like about Martin Pegu is when he sits on Joy FM today and calls people names and is not able to look at this matter fairly and squarely and say that we think the OSP must release the report so that we can move on. And whilst he's calling people's names, a judge said that Martin Pegu has stolen somebody's work. And he was fined in court. I have not been found in court for stealing somebody's work. You, Martin Pegu, a judge said that you have stolen somebody's work. And then they still interview him. And they don't ask him that, are you the one that the judge said you stole somebody's work? No. And then he's postulating about other people and saying that he doesn't trust Mami Tiwa. She cannot do her work, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that is your opinion. Another person may have an opinion. But that you have stolen somebody's work is not an opinion. It's a firm conclusion of a high court judge competently sitting as a member of the Superior Court of Judicature, concluded that you, Martin Pegu, you have stolen. You haven't dealt with that. And then you are coming to call people names. And media people will call him. Every day they call Martin. I don't know whether there is only lawyer they know. Every day they call one person, the same person. Every day they're calling the same person. I don't know whether it's a consultant to Joy FM and they pay him monthly so that he will report for them. I don't know. But that is fair. It doesn't matter if that's what they are doing. It's fair. But then he shouldn't call people names because he who is in a glass house cannot throw stones. Because the court said that you have stolen. I didn't say it. The High Court said you have stolen. So this is the conclusion of the matter. This is the conclusion of the matter. Cecilia Dapaa's case is investigated. Can you put change the background here so that we get it? Cecilia Dapaa's case is investigated by OSP. OSP says that Cecilia Dapaa has done nothing wrong. OSP clears Cecilia Dapaa from the matter. It's cleared him. He says Cecilia Dapaa is fine, no problem. OSP didn't investigate the matter by himself. He investigated with FBI. They both come to the conclusion that Cecilia Dapaa is fine. Then they hand over to Yoko for money laundering. Yoko comes back to OSP that, OSP, please, give us the information for the money laundering. OSP doesn't give the information. The media are not aware that they cannot proceed with the money laundering investigation without a base crime. They are not aware because they haven't looked at Act 1044. They think that you are supposed to invest, just go ahead and investigate. That is ignorance. That is total ignorance. Why do journalists do that to themselves? It's complete ignorance. So Cecilia Dapaa is enjoying that. Media people saying that OSP should invest. Tonight we have pointed out to you from Act 1044 that offense of money laundering is an offense that requires the base crime and the predicate crime. You need two things together to have money laundering. So you cannot just investigate for money laundering. A hospital can be the crime of money laundering. But it's a hospital. It's saving lives, but it can be the crime. So this is the point, that if they had looked at 1044, there's no way Iyoko can proceed without Cecilia Dapaa showing them the report so that they can find the offense with which to proceed on a money laundering investigation. Absolutely no way that can be done. It's in Act 1044. I don't know whether people haven't seen it. And so Iyoko have sent the docket back to Cecilia Dapaa that if you will not give us the report, then take it and go ahead with it. And people are saying that, what? Mami Tiwa wants to clear Cecilia Dapaa. It is Cecilia Dapaa who actually cleared Cecilia Dapaa, and we have demonstrated that tonight. We have nothing more useful to add. Let's go and see what people are saying on a text message. This is Good Evening Ghana. It's live. I'll take my blue seat over here at 26 minutes past the hour at 10 o'clock. That's been very, very long. Who do I start with on this one? Okay, so Fatih, I'll start with you. At 10:26, what are people saying?
Thank you. So this is coming from General E.L. Coleman, and he says that the OSP needs an orientation on how.
Let's take Bello.
Because he was using a lot of illegalities in nation and apology, especially leading to many, include the media, to tag Auntie Cecilia as a thief. Now, from Yao Jan, he says, God bless you. Also, Bob Dominic says, I hated Ghana's journalism, but Paul is making journalism in Ghana very attractive. Again, like the way Dr. Baumia is making Ghana's politics attractive. Now, since established. Elam Kwame Phillips says, Cecilia Dapaa's a character to the high office of OSP. And Prince Scott Opoku says, as they are diabolic and incompetent. Lastly, coming from Junior Akbar Tamale, he says, in fact, to offer the good people of this nation who us and put us into shape. Man, he's ready to help the country, and I think I have to launch an operation Special Prosecutor Masku. What do you have for us?
Okay. Coming from he says citizens were more patriotic and police officials were more professional in 1960 than 2024. Coming from Gordy, he says, Paul, the 1960 thieves were just petty thieves, not armed robbers. So the mere presence of a man in police uniform was enough deterrent to crime perpetrators. That model wouldn't work today. Coming from Eric Yeboah, he says, that's critical analysis and indeed deep in wisdom. Coming from Junior Akbar, he says, for me, I don't just understand the reason why this man is still our special prosecutor. Coming from Ya Papabi, she says, Hisi Azaben is just milking the taxpayers' money. Kenny Japan warned the NPP. And lastly, from Bright Iduasari, he says, Paul, the woman can still sue the Office of Prosecutor for defamation and harassment. What do you have for us, Angela?
So we have Gertrude Ban saying, fantastic Paul, no size, so genius. I wish the first journalists will learn from Paul. We have Hash Kishlin saying, truth is truth. Paul is reading from court proceedings and not his own thesis. We have Kwabna Dentu saying, I think Mrs. Dapaa should sue OSP or at least test the laws. We have Bright Idu Asari saying, Paul, the woman can still sue the office of the prosecutor for defamation and harassment. From Owusu Amwako, my question is, why did the president put these amateur duo in such a sensitive and important public office? Emmanuel Samwine is saying, the OSP himself did not understand how money laundering works. In money laundering, the money must be used for an activity before you come to the conclusion of money laundering. For example, trafficking, drugs, or smuggling. From Prince Opoku, Paul, this issue is just like the Bible. People can read it, but how do they understand? Most people have read the law on money laundering, but simply do not understand. And then we have Elder Amu saying, Paul Adam Otri, the turf war diversions is by Joy FM, and it is deliberate. Lastly, from Lily Will, she's asking, Paul, can the president force the OSP to send the report to Iyoko? And if he doesn't do it, they will sack him on that. And if he doesn't do it, can they stand on that to sack him? Over to you, Angelo.
Asamoah Abosi Albert asked, Paul, is Martin Pebu really a lawyer? Now, Edward Lubaja thinks yes. He says yes, he's one of the best lawyers in Ghana. Adwa Michael says, the best evening show ever. Thank you very much. Evening TV is quite competitive. Lamprey King Rashid says, OSP is always practicing sensationalism acts. He's interested in cases that will make him popular as if he is working. Now, Justin, I'm not going to read this. Okay, so Lily Will says, Paul is journalism and journalism is Paul. Okay, now, Arito Bevia asked if Cecilia's house is a bank. I don't think he's convinced. Ifa Yaboa responds asking, what is the crime of keeping your own money at home? And lastly, okay, so Jude from Domit says, the man said that the OSP has not finished washing their hands from the case, perhaps implying something else. And then again, Junior Akbar watching us from Tamale says, for us, when we take the affairs of this country, I'm talking of when our incoming president, Dr. Bawumia, takes over after Akufo-Addo, we will not allow such misbehaving special prosecutors to continue misleading the good people of this nation. It will never happen. Paul, back to you.
Mm-hmm. Well, Alassane Bello is ready for us. We didn't say anything about football tonight. I'm just so disappointed that Kylian Mbappe is out of the Champions League. He will not be in the final at Wembley. And it's quite complicated. Okay. Bello, it's been a while. How are you?
Yeah, fine.
How's the new Senegalese president doing? He's your man, isn't he?
Yeah, I think you're feeling it.
Are you sure he'll be able to do it?
Well, time will tell. But so far, it's so good.
Austin confirms Russian deployed to air base housing in military in Niger. What's going on?
I think there was this deployment of Russian forces in Niger. Mm-hmm. But then it has, I think, two legs in terms of...
Russian forces?
Yeah.
So if you can give us, since Prigozhin left, what has happened to the group?
Wagner has been disbanded as a single unit. So it has now been fractured into different units.
So where are the actors of Wagner? They are back in the Russian army?
No, not in the Russian. They are now under the control of Russian Ministry of Defense.
Oh, so the turf war that was going on, Prigozhin lost?
Yeah, he lost.
Because
the whole idea was that there was this directive by the Russian Ministry of Defense take control of Wagner activities.
In West Africa?
No,
everywhere.
In Ukraine itself.
Oh, Ukraine. Wagner is in Ukraine.
Yeah, because he was criticizing them publicly. So by then, Prigozhin felt that was an attempt to limit his power. That resulted in the revolt. But Putin sided with the MOD, Minister of Defense, rather than Prigozhin. Perhaps he saw that his power base was becoming intolerable for Putin.
So did the Russian establishment kill Prigozhin?
Well, all evidence points to that. But then, in terms of categorically, we can't say yes. So it's more like a plausible deniability whereby everything points to your actions, but your fingerprint cannot be detected on the crime itself.
But did anyone inherit Prigozhin's space?
Well, the nearest person that would inherit his space would be Ramazan Kadyrov, the president of Chechen Republic.
Okay, I don't know him.
You know, he's one of the probably semi-autonomous republic within Russia itself.
Okay. And he responds to Vladimir Putin?
Yeah, he's very close with Putin. And when Prigozhin even decided to revolt, Putin didn't activate the Russian armed forces. He only activated a unit called the Kadyrovsky, which is more like they are nominally within the Russian National Guard. But in terms of practical operationality, they have independence and other control from Kadyrov. They were initiated towards Putin's Prigozhin's attempt.
So we know that we are not surprised to hear Russia in Niger, but what's America doing there too?
Niger has always been the linchpin of Western countries in their fight against the jihadi terrorists within the Sahel. It used to house the French military base, and then have the US also have a drone base. They have two military bases in Niger. One is in the capital, Niamey, and one is in Agadez. So, but then post the coup, there was this, should I say, conflagration of everything into one. So you against us. So ECOWAS, the French, and the US are bonded together, seen as opponents of the coup d'etat. And that is one of the things we are seeing. So it's an attempt, to mount further pressure. You know, there's been this attempt to push US out of the base. And there was this negotiation that started way back in April. But then bringing the Russians into the same base that is housing US troops is what is more like a significant escalation, but below the threshold that will create a whole lot of rupture. But also, I think there's also an attempt to deter US, perhaps, interference or attempt to oust the government, because US has this history of using its presence in countries to sometimes unseat unfavorable government. We can talk about the 1953 Operation Ajax in Iran, that ousted Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. We can talk about their involvement with Belgium, Congo, and CIA.
But they've even gone into a country to arrest.
In terms of using their diplomatic or military presence, we can talk about the overthrow and arrestation of Patrice Lumumba, where you have both CIA.
Was that not UN more than the US?
No, that was US. US under the CIA with Belgium, Congo, and other. But it was in the Cold War, so we look at within that perspective.
Okay.
But that was what even Nkrumah regretted putting the UN was ineffective at the time, because Nkrumah regretted placing Ghanaian armed forces under the command of UN.
In the Congo?
Yeah, he should have placed them under what do you call it, Congolese Prime Minister. But then, the base, so when it happened that way, there was a confirmation from US Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin. He said the situation is not great, but in the short term, manageable. The Russians are in the separate compound and don't have access to US forces or access to our equipment. He further said that I'm always focused on the safety and protection of our troops. But right now, I don't see any significant issue here in terms of our forces protection. So it's more like a political statement. But then prior to that, Russia deployed air defense system within Niger itself, which equally has to
fight who?
That's where we're going. It has to do with ECOWAS threat of intervention.
Russia were prepared to confront the ECOWAS potential intervention in Niger.
It is more like giving the military regime a form of protection or assurance that you'll be protected against any potential intervention.
So Russia is pro the military regime in Niger.
Yeah.
The current military regime. That has announced cutting its ties with France.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no French presence in Niger now.
No, there's no French except US is the only.
How did the US find themselves there? Did they go recently or they've always been there?
They've always been there, I think, since 2015 or so.
And they are pro the overthrown regime, the civilian regime.
Yeah, the civilian regime.
But they are still there.
Yeah. But then in Niger they have two military bases. One is the base 101, which is where the US and the and the Russians are now sharing presence, which is just adjacent to the international airport, Hamad Diori International Airport in Niamey. But then the biggest military facility in Niger, owned by US, is in Agadez, which is the drone base for where they fly sorties over the Sahel to gather intelligence and then do strike when necessary against the Islamist militants across board. But then their presence.
But as the military regime expressed nervousness at the US continued presence in Niger,
They've expressed discomfort. They've called for withdrawal of U.S. forces. And interestingly, across the Sahel, anywhere the Westerners have lost presence or relevance, Russians have gained. You can talk about Mali, you can talk about Burkina, and you can talk about Niger. It is not just with the military establishment or the new military regimes, but even within the public itself. Because anytime, so this is one of the images from the base.
So this is one of the U.S. bases in Niger.
These are the sort of
building looks quite nice.
Yeah, this is MQ Reaper. It was a very huge building facility within.
But is that not a violation of sovereignty of sorts? I mean, can America just come into a country and impose?
No, there was an agreement.
So between the government of the day at the time.
At the time.
Okay. So can this government revoke that agreement? Have they tried to do so?
The agreement has been suspended, I think, somewhere last month.
But they are still there.
They are still there. So now, but you have to negotiate your exit.
So their continuous stay is a violation of the suspension of the agreement?
The agreement was unilaterally suspended by one party. But every agreement has its own terms.
Okay, yeah.
So it was unilaterally, suspended. But then there was this negotiation taking place between the US, the American government, and the Nigerian, junta, to find a way out. That is to determine the duration of US exit from the country. But then this looked like an attempt to further mount pressure, more like a negotiating tactics to hasten the withdrawal, because they're very uncomfortable with the presence. But then if you look at the images within Niger itself, in support of the coup d'etat, in support of against ECOWAS intervention, two things are very striking here. You could look at the message on this.
What do they say? US
Army. Leave, you leave. Move, you vanish. No bonus, no negotiation.
Asking them to get out.
The same way you have growing anti-French sentiment within this country, we're currently having growing more like collectively anti-Western sentiment. And that is because despite the presence of these Western multinational forces within the Sahel, the jihadists have gained more strength and expanded the scope of the attack. So the question is, who
are the jihadists attacking now that they have Niger, they have Mali, they have Burkina? Who are they attacking?
The jihadists are not a unified body, because you have the Katiba Masina, headed by Amadou Koufa. They are more of what I would call an Islamist nationalist, because they seek to create a unified Mali.
So they are trying to make Mali an Islamic state.
And then you have the Yad Agali group. They are more like
but they are guerrilla groups, or they are like the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, which is a political organization, political and philosophical organization, which doesn't use too many guns, but they use narrative and influence. That's the Islamic fundamentalists in Egypt.
Initially, prior to 2009, Boko Haram was more like Muslim Brotherhood, more like a soft approach. But post 2009, when they revolted against the Nigerian state with the attack in Maiduguri, it became more militant, more confrontational, and then henceforth, with the chaos in Libya, and then the trickling of arms in Mali, we saw the widespread violence across board. But just like the multinational forces fighting them, the jihadists equally are not unified. One of the things that created the division within Boko Haram, now you have ISWAP, Islamic State West African Province.
Let's not digress to Boko Haram. So what is going to happen between America and Russia in Niger?
So now, you see, U.S. has a history of using its presence in the country to overthrow an unwanted government or unfavorable government. So in anticipation, from the perspective of the Nigerian junta, they see the presence of U.S. military within the country to be a threat to their hold on power. So you need to get them out. But within this period of negotiation, trying to get them out, you also need something like a buffer or a counterweight. And that is where the Russians come to play. So deploying the Russians in the same facility with the American force is an attempt, one, to check their any attempt to overthrow or undermine the regime. Secondly, it's also let them know that in as much as you are strong, we call you have a mighty protector or benefactor just like you are. But then, aside that, you could also see that prior to the deployment of the soldiers within the same facility, you had this deployment of Russian troops, and one of the things they did was to deploy anti-air defense systems in Niger. And this put almost every ECOWAS air force on check, because none of us have this 5th generation or 4th generation fighter jets. Nigeria, which is the most powerful country in West Africa, equally has more like a dilapidated, Air Force. Even though they are now retooling, but the planes have not been deployed, like the 349 that the other.
So this help protect the Nigerian regime. This equipment.
It keeps Nigerian airspace beyond the reach of all ECOWAS forces. Mm-hmm. That is the significance of the deployment of the Pan Air Defense Force. In as much as it is a short-range air defense system, unlike S-400, which is more sophisticated. But in terms of capability, it is enough to check West African forces. And then, but we need to also look at Wagner itself collectively. It depends on who you ask. Is it a mercenary group? Is it a private military contractor? So the detractors of Russia label it as a mercenary group. But the pro-Russian element will tell you it's just a normal private military contractor. As to what it is, it depends on where you stand. But then we need to be careful about or West African countries getting involved in this emerging Cold War. Because taking side will be detrimental to our interests. And for example, you remember somewhere last year, there was this arrest that came to the news that some Ghanaians were arrested, I think somewhere in Takoradi, for displaying pro-Wagner, symbols and the rest. So it tells you that whether directly or indirectly, we could be caught in the turf war. And that becomes a very, difficult situation for us.
But nobody's fighting. The Americans are not fighting. They are not shooting. The Russians are not fighting. They are not shooting. They are all doing a wait-and-see attitude.
They've been these...
But does the regime have enough space in all of these circumstances to continue with governance, development, schools? Are the schools reopening? Are hospitals working? Is everything working all right? In Niger, in Burkina, in Mali?
The greatest asset they have is the public support.
Yes, they have that, but is the system working? Are they getting their supplies?
They are under some duress, but then not totally as we would have expected. There's this changing global dynamics.
That does not just mean that it's a matter of time, and the regime will not be able to find money to sustain the country.
Well, history has shown that even under pressure, dictatorial regimes survive. We saw the chaos in Venezuela, the pressure. Maduro is still in office. We've seen it across board where they've been sanctioned.
Well, that's because people are afraid. But I'm talking about the development of the society. I mean, you can have people who are docile, they are afraid of the gun, which every human being is, and therefore they don't attempt to overthrow you. But you will be degenerating the society with a government that is not able to develop IT, energy infrastructure, water infrastructure, which Niger badly needs. Coup has occurred. The Americans are there making sure that the government doesn't succeed. The Russians are there hoping that the actors of the coup will be protected against American insurgents. And the rest of the country is degenerating. After 2-3 years, there's going to be an influx of refugees coming down south. Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Nigeria. Is that not what West Africa should be worried about?
Well, I think that would be a matter of concern. But what I'm saying that if you look at the changing global dynamics, it cannot help those kind of isolated regimes to survive, because the Chinese and the Russians are now collaborating stronger than they used to be in the past. So in
Niger or globally?
Globally.
Okay.
And even in the Sahel.
Since the Ukraine war.
Even in the Sahel. Mm-hmm. So in places where Russia does not really have the financial might to support, the Chinese or the other have also come to lend support. So it's more like...
So are schools open in Niger? Are schools open in Niger?
Schools are open. Everything is going on. There was just recently that they were announced that they defaulted on their debt because of the sanction. And then all those prices of things are escalating, but not at the rate that undermines
But they could get there.
But that's what I'm saying, that it depends if the Chinese and the Russians are not able to give them alternative. But we've seen that
alternative economy. That's going to be very difficult. Have the Chinese historically done that?
But they've shown that the Chinese have the temerity to.
But historically, have they done that? Have they shown support to any country that's under global international pressure, a country that America may consider a pariah state? Have the Chinese been able to go there to sustain their economy? Has it happened?
Yeah, to a large extent, they've helped Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe is on his knees. And Zimbabwe had to reconcile with itself by removing Robert Mugabe. They had to agree with Mugabe's henchmen, Mnangagwa and co., to remove Robert Mugabe so that they would get back out of pariah status.
No, that wasn't the goal. In Zimbabwe, it was an internal power struggle, whereby the element with the guns felt that it has lost all the political arguments. So the only option it has on the table was to bring them.
Yeah, but the elements with the guns, including Mnangagwa, were supported by the West. Robert Mugabe's wife and the other factions were supporting Mugabe with the China and all of those things they were doing. Currency devalued, currency gone. China set to be supporting Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe really didn't succeed. Today, Zimbabwe is not the same as it was 10 years ago. And it's going to take a very long time for Zimbabwe to come back to where it was. Most of Zimbabweans have influx into South Africa, and they are killing them on xenophobia. The country Zimbabwe is nothing, looks nothing like what it used to be. It cannot even host a SADC meeting. Is that the story that we want to write?
No, but you see, the fact that if you look at the way the goal of the West itself, the whole sanction is meant to disrupt or destabilize the country.
Yes, absolutely.
It was meant to overthrow the government.
Yes, it's true.
So, if you look at the fact that the projection have failed, the question is how or why did it fail?
But they were able to overthrow the government. Mnangagwa overthrew Mugabe.
That was an internal struggle within ZANU-PF.
No, but they exploited it. The internal struggle had always been there.
The man was aging.
Certainly he was. But they had exploited that internal struggle.
It was the G40, who are called the Generation 40, the younger generation, against the old guards.
No, but look at Mnangagwa's immediate announcements after he took over. He was reconciling with the West. The first announcement he made was to reconcile with the West. So clearly, there was a Western hand in getting it done, and he was compelled to do so because Zimbabwe was degenerating.
I don't think there's a Western hand, but I think.
But his announcements were reconciling.
No, but that was obviously what he would do.
But if he's with the China concept and philosophy of the way Zimbabwe was going, he will not make those announcements. China didn't like to work with him. They wanted to work with Robert Mugabe or Mugabe's anointed successor. And that was not Mnangagwa. Even though Mnangagwa had been a right-hand man for a long time throughout the ZANU-PF crisis, even from the days of Joshua and Nkomo, Mugabe and Mnangagwa had fallen out. Everybody in Zimbabwe knew that. And as you say, they had fallen out because of an internal power struggle in ZANU.
Yeah.
And Mugabe's wife coming in very strong with people like Makosini. I don't know whether you know him. Makosini is a young sports minister whom I know. He was one of those with
yes. And the likes.
And so when Mnangagwa took over in the coup d'etat, people like Makosini actually had to flee from Zimbabwe. So Zimbabwe is there today. It's in the hands of Mnangagwa. Mugabe is gone. The Chinese couldn't help them. It didn't work. So everybody's looking at how they can recover. And they were one of the shining stars in the SADC region. Today, they are no longer a shining star. So African leaders must begin to understand that development is the most important agenda. This regime security and I have to be president and he's corrupt and all that. You can raise questions against him. You can prosecute him if you want. But make sure that you go to the ballot and win an election like it's happened in Senegal. And the best way to change regime, we must understand in this part of the world, is to go to the ballot box and deliver an electoral victory. Anything short of that, Chinese will promise you heaven. But Zimbabwe has shown that doesn't work.
But I think if we limit it to just election on the ballot boxes, then in reference to this country, we will lose the plot.
Why?
Because over the years, they've conducted elections upon elections that have produced winners. But the biggest losers have been the citizens.
Yes.
So the question is, if you keep trying one particular thing and it doesn't work for you, you have the right to choose an alternative. You equally have the right to misgovern yourself till you find your right.
But Ghana has demonstrated that no matter how you have a bad leader in a democracy, it is always better than a military coup d'etat. Ghana has demonstrated that. We have had elections for 30 years. We have elected bad leaders. It's not every leader in the Fourth Republic and every decision made by a Ghanaian leader in the Fourth that we can say was great. We have had leaders who have been derelicts in their duty. We have had leaders who have been incompetent. We have had some who have been competent. We've had all that. But all of that is still better than the man who takes a gun without any shred of understanding of politics, governance, development, and says that I'm the messiah of the country. We have seen how they end up.
But in the same way, Nigeria has equally demonstrated with the benefit of hindsight that a so-called bad leader could be far better than even the democratically elected leaders. If you look at the record of Abacha, put the human rights issues aside, Abacha met an inflation rate hovering around 35%. At the time he died in office, inflation was around 19%.
I'm not sure whether the economists will agree with you because you're talking about...
But with the benefit of hindsight, the figures are clear.
When Abacha was president, you cannot take any figure coming out of Nigeria seriously. Abacha sat on television and declared the Naira's rate to the dollar. He declared it. Abacha is not somebody you can even talk about. Abacha can declare his own inflation. Abacha did nothing for Nigeria. If Wole Soyinka hears you talking like this about Abacha, he'll cry.
These are evidences that have come up after his death. The man is not even there to speak for himself. But the fact
but whilst he was president, businesses ran away. Moshood Abiola was not allowed to work and all of that. So Abacha comes on television and says, from today, the Naira is going to be 2 to the dollar. Finish. And that's what.
Abacha's major sin was just because he killed Ken Saro-Wiwa. And that was when he became it was more like ostracized totally.
Yeah, that was what took him out. But Abacha's first sin was hijacking the transition process and putting himself as leader.
The question should be not just how the leaders come to power. So, because we could look at Thomas Sankara. He came to power through the gun. But in the records of Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara did so much than even the elected leaders. So the most important thing should be development, as you said. But then without stability, be it a military regime or civilian regime, there cannot be discussion on development.
But military regime can never create a stability because of the way they came to power and the consciousness of regime security. You can never have a military regime that is stable. Even Colonel Gaddafi, who thought he had achieved stability after 40 years, look at what happened.
In that context,
Saddam Hussein thought he had achieved stability after 30 years. Look at what happened. Once you come through the gun and you try to metamorphose yourself into a civilian leader, you always have the consciousness of regime security. In those circumstances, you can never have stability.
Well, that depends on context. Because if you look at the whole French grip over this West African country, it's because if you call it back leaders who have come through the guns and maintained power through the guns, we can talk about Idriss Déby, who stayed in charge for over 30 years, backed by France. Even when his son violated the constitution, Mahamat Déby, to stay in power, President Macron...
This is France backing a client state. Yeah. That's also bad.
And then President Macron, when he went to Chad, said stability, in paraphrasing his context, was more important than democracy. So he backed the coup d'etat of Mahamat Déby as against...
Because he suited the colonial authority. So that's also to be condemned. That's to be condemned. But the people in the country themselves must understand. They may not want democracy, but they have to find themselves a government that brings out competent people.
So it depends on looking at the country in isolation. For example, in the Malian case, until you address the divide between the North and the South, which has both historic, political, and economic implication, you cannot have peace. Because to the average Northern Malian, what you call restoration of Malian sovereignty is a restoration of a pre-colonial agreement that has continued to exist after the colonial rule, which is the domination of the country by the Southerners. So whether through elections or through military coup d'etat, if any solution does not, address these,
development challenges,
not just these issues of national importance, unity, nation building, between the North and the South, you'd have problems. And then if you look at Burkina Faso, the main issue was because you took away the strong man without, strong institution, without a definite plan, succession plan. So when Compaoré went, the division between the larger armed forces and the smaller RSP he created to protect his regime surfaced. So if you look at the counter coup, Doumbouya is from the RSP, which was disbanded. Traoré was from the larger armed forces. You get the context. Then if you look at the case of...
So what's going to happen to these countries over the next 5 years? Comparing them to, say, Ghana.
Well, I think that...
In terms of development, in terms of human development, the Human Development Index, how is he going to read for a 10-year-old in Niger when he turns 15 5 years from now? What is he going to know? Is he going to be accustomed with the internet? Is he going to understand the modern things that the Ghanaian children are understanding?
The first question is, what is the justification of ECOWAS sanction on Niger? Because...
It's to tell people that we abhor the violent overthrow of regimes that have been elected.
Did they do the same? Did they do the same when Condé was violating the constitution? Where was ECOWAS?
No, the point I'm making is not about ECOWAS, it's about the Ghanaian, the African people.
No, I'm saying that.
Don't we, African youth, don't we now begin to think that this guerrilla tactics it degenerates our society? And we should not allow, whether it's America, whether it's Russia, whether it's China, that is perpetrating. Let's ask for a government for ourselves, by the people, for the people, which has competence at the center of it. And otherwise, we are going nowhere.
So it depends on what is the plan of the government. It doesn't matter whether they come through the gun or through the ballot.
Once they come through the gun, they must be preparing a constitution to hand over.
We've had leaders that came through the ballot, they messed up.
Yes, we've said that in Ghana.
We've had leaders that came through the gun, they messed up. So Africa has tested both democracy.
No, as far as Ghana is concerned, all our democracy leaders should be better than all our coup leaders.
We've tested both.
Yes, and we have come to the conclusion that even when democracy is bad, you have Sraj, you have Yoko, you have parliament, you have opposition in parliament, you have minority leader. All of these create a certain checks and balances on a bad leader, and that's why we are even able to know that he's a bad leader. But here you are, you have a military system, you don't have any institution working.
But the question is, with all this across the board, even within the democratically governed countries, beyond the fact that we go to ballot for 4 years, what is the story? I stand to this.
Are you talking about Ghana?
What? Maybe Ghana might be an exception, but across West Africa.
But even Nigeria, Nigeria.
Across West Africa.
Yeah, Nigeria, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, those who have had stability show clearly. Cote d'Ivoire was able to put up a spectacle of an African Cup of Nations.
What is the benefit of stability if it doesn't lead to bread and butter on the table?
Yeah, but Ghana's bread and butter is far better than those people.
But Gaddafi's bread and butter and the military regime was far better than what they have today. So democracy...
No, Gaddafi's bread and butter was only for a certain group of people. The descendants of King Idris never benefited from Gaddafi's bread and butter. There was a disunity in Libya all the time. Gaddafi covered it up because he ruled with an iron hand. So we did not get to hear the voices of the King Idris people. That's what brought Gaddafi to his knees. That's the story that West African youth should be reading and understanding that if we want to build our society, we need to be clear about what we are doing.
We now have two clear paths now. We have two clear paths now. Mm-hmm. In terms of Mali, Burkina Faso and Senegal, they've chosen the coup d'etat. Mm-hmm. So the question is, will the military guys deliver? That is one. In Senegal,
we know they won't deliver. We know they cannot deliver.
We can't be certain because even Thomas Sankara, when he came, people thought he wouldn't deliver.
But if you look at how Burkina Faso turned out after Sankara over 20 years, the development there was better than when Sankara was there. Sankara was just giving them the rhetoric. We don't want people to have champagne. We don't want people to have this. What did Sankara do? It was Blaise Compaoré that dug all the dams that gave them tomatoes.
Within 5 years, Thomas Sankara changed the face of agriculture in Burkina Faso. Well, but one of the first things he did was agrarian reform. Mm-hmm. Absentee landlords, the land was still going to be given to the farmers, so it increased the yield.
He gave the land to the farmers.
Yeah,
the farmers like Mugabe did.
No. In Mugabe's case, it was different. In Mugabe, we can go to Lancaster House Agreement. Mm-hmm. Britain was supposed to compensate the white farmers for the land that was stolen by the.
I'm saying that they gave the farmers the land back to the farmers who had incompetent hands.
They gave land, but the quantities were not the same.
But is the farmer competent?
In the case of Zimbabwe, mm-hmm. The Britain, per Lancaster House Agreement, Britain was supposed to pay for the land.
Yes, we know that. But I'm saying that giving the farms back to Africans does not mean that the yield will increase and Burkina will be exporting anything significant.
Why was Mugabe sanctioned? Because if Mugabe is able to do well, that will have a ripple effect across Southern Africa where you have white minority. In what do you call it?
Well, that may be true. But I'm saying that people in Zimbabwe should take a decision on how they want to run their country. And the important things on their agenda.
Fortune rice. It's me emu ediane biara. Yansio kakre bipe. Emu nkikamu. Na ne hwam ne dedie. Delicious. Said your mama tie no pepepe. Ye the fortune emopa abedwaso. Ghana mo ede. Ma emu ediane nyina.
FDA aje ejedi nkratoa yatum.
It's good to stay strong together. It's good to share nutritious meals cooked with Fritol, a vitamin A fortified oil. Fritol, you deserve a life of goodness. This advert is...
In today's modern world, stairs are a challenge, especially for our elderly and those with health concerns. Navigating them can be difficult and even dangerous, but there's a safer way to move vertically. Lifts and Elevators Limited Company, your answer to a more accessible and secure vertical transportation. Our elevators and escalators, including top-of-the-line pneumatic vacuum elevators, Fuji elevators and escalators, offer a safer and more convenient alternative, eliminating the risks of stairs and enhancing accessibility for homes, businesses, and hospitals. Choose safety and convenience with Lifts and Elevators Limited Company. Elevate your spaces today. For more information, visit our website at www.elevatorsgh.org or call now on 0200-535-515. Lifts and Elevators Limited Company, the elevator people.
Our stories begin right here, and we never write them alone. There'll be pages we love to read again and again, and some we want to tear out. They are stories of dreamers, stories of creators, stories of strivers, stories of believers, and we're inspired by them all. We invite you to write your story with us. Your story matters. APSA.
Just like how water refreshes you on a hot sunny day, it takes a refreshing bath with Alive soap to feel its pleasant fragrances.
The soap I want and need at the end of every day.
Leaving you with soft, smooth and fresh looking skin.
You make me feel alive, you really brighten my day, my day.
Available in lemon, coconut, rose and aloe vera fragrance. Alive soap. Feel fresh, feel alive.
We are back, bringing you the latest lineup from Betway. Betway starts strong with their front two, with Free Play Friday and Swipe Bet. In the middle, you've got all the control with Cash Out and Build a Bet. Plus, with Win Boost, you can boost your sports bet. At the back, they have Smart Picks and the Partial Daily Jackpot.
You always get way more with Betway.
Subscribers have been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly. No under 18. Terms and conditions apply. Betway. Get way more.
Customer. Nadavena minka me papa. Me try 10 Ghana.
10 Ghana.
10 Ghana cedis.
No dia. Send now benya.
10 Ghana cedis no. Me dia. 54,000 Ghana cedis.
54,000.
540 million.
Yeah, the one na me come di you.
Yeah. And then I get it na when. Na wa boki. Draw no na assassin no. Mami me volume. Customer. Ready.
One of our daily lucky winners. Dial *946# to play now. Or you can also play online at www.gamepackgames.com. Game Park is regulated by the National Lottery Authority.
Hello.
Has Christianity always been one of the religions in the world to you?
Oh, hallelujah. Christianity is not a religion, neither is it a joining of a church and doing the Christian things like praying and giving and so on. Hallelujah. Christianity is the outworking of God's own kind of life received into the spirit of a man. Whoa! This divine life in the heart of a man makes him righteous, keeps him healthy, divinely guided in life, prosperous and victorious. It gives you the ability to enjoy intimate fellowship with the Father and have dominion on this earth. Hallelujah. This is what awaits you if you will wholeheartedly believe that Jesus is the Son of God raised from the dead and personally confess him as the Lord of your life. Glory to God.
Hallelujah. Join Dr. David Binder on the Good Life Devotion every Monday to Friday on this channel and receive truth that will usher you into exhibiting the divine life. Kindly note that you can enjoy the Good Life Devotion on these other platforms at their stated times. Do choose the most convenient one for you or switch to another in case of a broadcast challenge with your usual platform. By all means, don't miss the Good Life Devotion any day. Now, welcome to today's episode with Dr. David Binden.
Wow, praise the Lord. Hallelujah, hallelujah. How are you doing? I bring you greetings from the community of the Godhead. And the Lord loves you so much. If you are still a human that haven't yet received Christ, God loves you. And that is why he sent Jesus of Nazareth, who came into the world over 2,000 years ago. And Jesus came to sort out every issue that could ever exist between you and God. And he has brought all humanity to be able to have access to God by the eternal life he's offering. He offers you eternal life freely, and you can receive it today and become a son of God. If you're also already born again and you're in Christ, God loves you. The Father really loves you. And that is why he sent the Holy Ghost.